Hey guys, I hope we've all had a really good week. As you can see from my recent videos, I've been doing a lot of DOTS stuff. And I often get asked, what is DOTS? What is ECS? So in this video, I'm gonna give you a rundown on what DOTS is, how it works, some benefits and drawbacks to it, talk about when you can use it, and finally provide you with some additional learning resources if you so desire them. So first off, what qualifies me to speak about DOTS? What is my experience level with it? I've been using it since about the beginning of December. I'm on my second learning project with it. See my update video before, some examples of what those projects are. There was a cubes project and the cats project. To understand this video though, you're gonna need to know two terms, DOTS and ECS. DOTS stands for the Data Oriented Technology Stack, while ECS stands for the Entity Component System. Entity Component System is a design pattern where entities, which are just an int ID, reference a collection of components which hold only data. Components are then organized in chunks into memory so we can really quickly load them in groups and iterate over them. All of the logic is performed in systems using that component data. We can add, remove, and set components on any given entity ID and the type of component. We can create and destroy entities correlated with specific sets of components, and we can control the order the systems run in and which entities' component data they perform on. DOTS is a collection of packages that use that ECS pattern. Those packages are the entities package, the jobs package, the burst package, collections, mathematics, and Unity physics. There's a few other packages that are smaller and really not important to this video. So what the heck are all those packages? Well, entities is the core package. That's the one that you're gonna need to get started. Jobs allows us to really easily write and maintain multi-threaded code. It's a really, really powerful tool. Burst is ultimately just a compiler. Normally your project converts C# to .NET IL before converting it to assembly and passing it off to your processor to work on. Burst steps in and converts your .NET IL to LLVM. It does a little bit of optimization to make it utilize single instruction multiple data, or SIMD. Then it converts that to assembly and passes it off. This is where you exchange your compile time for your runtime. Collections and mathematics are just burst-friendly libraries. Collections is just arrays, lists, dictionaries, hash tables, things like that, while math is just math. Of course, utilizing this pattern comes with benefits and drawbacks. Some of those benefits can be how organized it is. It utilizes a really clear and consistent pattern. It's really modular because of that, which makes it easy to expand and modify. It makes it really easy to write unit tests for if you guys are fans of test-driven development. It's super easy to debug as well. Things point out kind of exactly what system is causing the problem, and it makes it pretty quick to track down little bugs. The code is also really available and something there that we can read if we get held up, like, oh, I don't remember if set component data adds it if it's not already there. We can look those things up. Traditionally, Unity doesn't let you do that. That kind of stuff is hidden behind internal calls, making it really difficult to figure out really what Unity's doing behind the scenes. And ultimately, I think that's just another point to Unity's new way of thinking and keeping things much more open and available rather than the old hidden and locked down. Before you used to have to pay to be able to get access to Unity's code. Now it's right there for you. Same with HDRP and URP. The code is open source and available on GitHub. And then finally, the one that people talk about a lot, which I believe is just the cherry on top, is the performance. ECS is really fast. You can throw hundreds of thousands of entities, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands would be maybe if you're using VFX graphs or some hacky stuff. We'll get more to that one later. As for the drawbacks, DOTS is really not yet mature, so a lot of basic Unity features aren't supported, and of course that's going to change in the future. But for now, you'll either have to create those yourself, do something really hacky where you can try to maybe get the old ones to sort of work with the new, with this hybrid thing. It hasn't worked much well for me. Or you can just wait until Unity supports them. Those things can be like the trail renderer, the line renderer, skinned mesh renderers, decal projectors, nav mesh agents and obstacles, VFX graphs, particle systems, a whole bunch of these other things. Any of those add components on the mono behaviors are difficult for you to utilize within DOTS. The API is also heavily changing, and because it's changing so fast, there's a lot of really old and outdated information that you have to sift through when you're trying to learn. But if you're looking to grow with something, understanding and experiencing that API change over time can be really beneficial to you as a developer for knowing the ins and outs. The documentation isn't quite complete, and oftentimes it's unclear. The documentation still is one of the better sources of DOTS information, unfortunately. Changelogs sometimes shed more light on how things work than the documentations do. You have to be really good at teaching yourself right now, and I believe that's going to change as things become more accessible and more abstracted. And currently, pretty much no asset supports entities. So if your asset is really like, you need a game object, or you need to add this component to a game object as a mono behavior, you're going to have troubles making that work within DOTS. Related is Project Tiny. And people often aren't sure what it is. I didn't know for a while. Is it related to DOTS? If so, how? And dug a little bit into that. So Unity is currently working on 3 runtimes to my understanding. There's the pure game object runtime, or the traditional runtime, the hybrid runtime, which allows us to convert game objects into entities, which can be really useful to spawn a prefab, and then there's the pure DOTS runtime. Tiny is the pure DOTS runtime. So what kind of things would I like to see from DOTS in Unity going forward? And hangups that I believe it has, difficulties it needs to overcome. To start, I think Unity really needs to clarify their names. Currently, there's Unity Physics and Unity Engine Physics, but Unity Engine Physics is the default, so it just gets called Unity Physics, which makes searching for Unity Physics incredibly hard. I think they should change Unity Physics rather than Unity Engine Physics into something that has a much more unique name, like how Havoc is unique, or what's their new technology for Unreal Engine is Nanite. Like, that's a searchable term. Unity Physics needs to be a searchable term. This isn't the only case. There's other things within their systems that have overlapping names, and I'd like Unity to clarify that, because it makes finding information about it easier and understanding how to work with it in code clearer. The subscene workflow currently needs cleaned up a lot. It's really buggy. It's a disaster. If you don't know what subscenes are, it allows you to put a game object in a subscene and pack it away, where you convert them to entities within the editor rather than at runtime. So the game objects don't exist even in the editor. And that can be really beneficial for making things work in the editor really quick and being able to pass things around. But like I said, it's a really buggy disaster right now. Doing anything with a build in subscenes is just a headache, and half the time they just don't update. They're just a disaster. I'd really like to see Unity clear up subscenes, and on that topic, folders. Currently, the entities.forEach syntax, which is incredibly handy, doesn't work in generic spaces or with generics. So I would like that to be cleaned up a little bit. I think entities.forEach has a lot that it could do if it was able to work with a generic type. I would like to see better support with link from Burst. Burst doesn't support managed types, and our collections don't work well with link. But link as a style synergizes really well with this iterating over sets and lists of component data and entities. Collections has quite a few non-implemented exceptions for things like IEnumerables with native lists, which is what really makes link hard to utilize. 2D entities, which allows us to convert sprite renderers into component data, exists, but it's really far behind. I think it's 5 months behind entities. Until that's updated, utilizing 2D entities is fairly impossible. I would love to see support for VFX graphs GPU particles with entities. Imagine if we could put the VFX graph component on a game object, convert it to an entity, have it convert to component data automatically. We could have so many things on the screen. NavMesh currently is super behind, and it's really a problem. Doing much of anything without pathfinding can be pretty difficult, and pathfinding has to be worked out really early within a project, but pathfinding is this massively complex thing that you can just dive into for months and months, putting a really big bottleneck on just the start of a project. And honestly, pathfinding should be handled by the game engine. I think if Unity really wants DOTS to go somewhere, they should push to get NavMesh supported within DOTS as soon as possible. And on the topic of features that Unity needs to implement, these two I think we have to continue to mention until Unity finally acknowledges it. We need folders in the hierarchy, and we need free dark mode with a actually attractive reason to get Unity Plus. Forcing us to get Unity Plus to pay for accessibility is silly. Catch up on the time, Unity, please. You're catching up well with DOTS. I'd love to see you do it with accessibility. Ultimately, please be transparent and acknowledge these. Your lack of doing so is frustrating to the community. And finally, when should you use DOTS? And right now, I think the only time you should use DOTS is if you are an advanced developer and you are making a longer term project without a time constraint that you can focus on learning with. Outside of that, DOTS is not production ready unless you really want to make a lot of things yourself. I think within the next 2 to 3 years, this will be a different question, where DOTS will be something that you might be able to default to unless you're making maybe a fast game jam. I can't imagine DOTS being great for short game jams. Where can I learn more is kind of like the most important part about this. I have a tutorial series starting soon. As soon as the 2D entities package is updated, I'll get to the tutorial series. I don't want to bog down the education with having to teach all the overhead that comes with the 3D game. So I want to make it simple in 2D. When that is updated, you'll have my tutorial series. You should also stop in my Discord and my Twitch stream. I definitely am open to answer questions, and I can dive down and code with you. The Unity forums are a great place. There's a lot of very experienced developers on there. I myself am one of them. The Unity example projects that you can find on their GitHub. I'll put a link in the description below on the forums and the example projects, as well as the Unite videos on YouTube. Those are some of the best ones. Unite Copenhagen, and I believe they just did a new one, but they didn't go quite as in depth as they did in Copenhagen. But those are great ways to learn. When I first started learning DOTS, I watched the videos and I made notes for like 3 days. That's all I did was take notes and watch videos. And it was great to helping me get my foot in. And then finally, the absolute most important part to learning DOTS is you need to be in your IDE. You need to be doing it. If you're not consistently doing it, you're not going to learn it. And that's when it comes to everything. And I'm going to have that topic talked about a lot on my channel because it's something that I had to force myself to do. You want to be good at something, you need to do it a lot. You want to be good at DOTS, you need to use it a lot. And that's going to be it for the video today, guys. I hope I see you next time. Actually, I will see you next time because I'm going to be here. So you better be as well. Stay safe with these crazy times and riots. Just be careful. It's the most important thing. And enjoy. If you're interested in any of my Unity assets, check out my Unity asset store. The link is in the description down below. If you'd like to play any of my Game Jam games or asset demos, head over to my itch. Be sure you tune into my live stream on Twitch 4 days a week, Wednesday through Saturday, 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific. Link is in the description down below. As always, if you'd like to see more of my content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. Special thanks to my Twitch subscribers and backers on Patreon for making my content possible. If you'd like to see your name on this list, head over to my Patreon. Link is in the description down below. And finally, thanks for tuning in and watching the video today. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your quarantine. I'll see you next week.